Have you ever wondered about the man who was instrumental in shaping the sound of rock and roll? There are legends in the world of music, and then there's Little Richard. This is the story of a man who not only revolutionized the music industry, but also laid the foundation for the genre we now know as rock and roll. Born Richard Wayne Penniman on a chilly December day in 1932, Little Richard's story begins in the heartland of Macon, Georgia. Raised in a home where the air was thick with gospel music, he was immersed in rhythm and soul from a young age. His family, deeply religious, would fill their humble abode with harmonious melodies, an environment that nurtured his budding talent. But it wasn't just the gospel tunes that ignited the musical fire within him. Little Richard's destiny took a turn when he had a chance encounter with a traveling medicine show. Among the crowd, magic tricks, and the hustle and bustle of the carnival, he found his true calling, a piano. His eyes widened as he saw it, standing majestically amongst the chaos. The black and white keys, the polished wood, the sound that it produced, it was like nothing he'd ever seen or heard before. It was in this moment, amidst the whirlwind of sights and sounds, that Richard Wayne Penniman became Little Richard. He once said of the experience, "That piano, it was like it was calling my name." And call it did. From that day forward, Little Richard and the piano were inseparable. The seeds of a legend had been sown, and the world of music was about to witness the birth of a rock and roll pioneer. So buckle up as we embark on this journey, a journey through the life and career of the man who became the architect of rock and roll. A journey that starts with a boy, a carnival, and a piano that was calling his name. In the mid-1950s, a new sound burst onto the music scene, and its name was Little Richard. A true dynamo, Richard Wayne Penniman, better known as Little Richard, was an unstoppable force that tore through the music industry with a fervor that had never been seen before. Hailing from Macon, Georgia, Little Richard's journey from gospel choir boy to rock and roll sensation was nothing short of extraordinary. His breakout moment came with the release of his iconic hit, Tutti Frutti. This flamboyant, high-energy anthem was a game-changer, with its unique fusion of gospel, rhythm, and blues, and Richard's own unique flair. The song skyrocketed up the charts, and before long, Little Richard was a household name. But Tutti Frutti was just the beginning. Hit after hit followed, with songs like Long Tall Sally and Good Golly Miss Molly, further cementing Little Richard's status as a rock and roll maverick. His music was unlike anything else. It was raw, it was powerful, and it was contagiously energetic. Yet it wasn't just his music that was turning heads. Little Richard's flamboyant style and electrifying stage presence were just as captivating. His bold fashion choices, his wild piano playing, and his unrestrained performances were a spectacle in themselves, setting the stage for the performances we see from rock stars today. But the real impact of Little Richard's rise to stardom goes beyond just the hits and the flashy performances. His music was a catalyst for change in an industry that was desperate for a new sound. He dared to be different, to push boundaries, and to challenge the status quo. And in doing so, he carved out a new path for music, a path that would lead to the birth of rock and roll. He took gospel, rhythm, and blues and added a wild, flamboyant energy. That was the birth of rock and roll as we know it. Little Richard's rise to stardom was not just the story of a man making music. It was the story of a man changing the world with his music. With great fame comes great challenges, and Little Richard was no exception. As he ascended to the pinnacle of the music world, the pressures and demands of the spotlight began to weigh heavy on his shoulders. Despite his flamboyant stage persona, Richard was a private individual. His unique style and androgynous image led to widespread speculation about his sexuality, a topic that was considered taboo in the conservative era of the 50s. The public scrutiny was relentless, and Richard often found himself at odds with societal norms and expectations. In addition to his personal struggles, Richard faced the harsh reality of discrimination. Despite his fame, he was often subjected to the racial prejudice prevalent in the era. Even at the height of his career, he was denied service in restaurants and was subjected to segregated accommodations while on tour. Then, there was the music industry itself. Richard was a pioneer in a genre that was just finding its feet. Rock and roll was considered rebellious, and its association with the African American community made it a target of moral policing and racial bias. The industry was rife with exploitation, and Richard had to constantly fight for his rights and fair compensation. His faith, too, was a source of internal conflict. Raised in a deeply religious family, Richard was torn between the secular world of rock and roll and his spiritual beliefs. This duality would eventually lead him to temporarily abandon his music career in favor of religious pursuits, much to the shock of his fans and the music world. In the midst of all these challenges, Richard's love for music never wavered. His resilience in the face of adversity is a testament to his character. He continued to perform and create despite the obstacles that came his way. He was a trailblazer, but he had to fight against so many obstacles. It wasn't easy. But then, that's the price of being a pioneer, of being the architect of rock and roll, of being Little Richard. Despite the challenges, Little Richard's influence remains evident in the music industry. His flamboyant style, his electrifying performances, and his groundbreaking music have left an indelible mark that continues to resonate today. Little Richard's legacy is not simply confined to his discography, as impressive as that is. No, it extends much further. It's woven into the very fabric of rock and roll, and its threads reach out into soul, funk, and beyond. He was a pioneer, a trailblazer, who dared to push boundaries and defy conventions in a time when doing so was fraught with risk. Yet, it's the artists who came after him who perhaps best exemplify his lasting influence. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, once said that without Little Richard, he would not be Elvis. The Beatles, arguably the most influential band in history, started their career covering Little Richard's songs. And Prince, the Purple One himself, saw in Little Richard a kindred spirit, a fellow innovator who was unafraid to challenge societal norms. But the legacy of Little Richard is not just about the past or the giants of music history who walked in his footsteps. It's about the present and the future as well. Today's artists, from diverse genres and backgrounds, continue to draw inspiration from Little Richard's music. His enduring appeal is a testament to his timeless talent and his unique ability to connect with audiences across generations. Little Richard's impact extends beyond music too. He was a symbol of freedom, of self-expression, at a time when such things were often suppressed. His flamboyant style, his unapologetic persona sent a powerful message. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be yourself. That message, that spirit of acceptance and authenticity, continues to inspire people around the world, in music and beyond. Moreover, Little Richard's legacy is a testament to perseverance. Despite the challenges he faced, the obstacles he had to overcome, he never gave up. He kept pushing, kept performing, kept making music. He showed us that even in the face of adversity, it's possible to succeed, to make a difference, to leave a legacy. And what a legacy it is. Little Richard's music has stood the test of time. His songs, filled with energy and emotion, continue to captivate audiences. His performances, characterized by their raw power and infectious enthusiasm, remain a standard to which many aspire. And his influence, as wide as it is deep, continues to shape the music industry in countless ways. So, as we celebrate the life and career of Little Richard, we also acknowledge his enduring impact. We recognize the ways in which he changed music, and how he continues to inspire artists and audiences alike. We remember his struggles, his triumphs, and his indomitable spirit. We honor his legacy and his contribution to the world of music. He was the original rock star, and his music still rocks our world today. Little Richard, the architect of rock and roll, left an indelible mark on the music industry. From his humble beginnings in Macon, Georgia, he catapulted onto the scene with a wild, flamboyant energy that would forever alter the sound of music. His hits like Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, and Good Golly Miss Molly resonated across the globe, laying the foundation for the rock and roll revolution. Throughout his career, he faced numerous challenges, including struggles with identity, discrimination, and a turbulent personal life. But in every obstacle, he found strength, becoming a beacon for countless artists that followed. His influence is seen in artists like Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and Prince, proving that his legacy continues to inspire. Little Richard's spirit, energy, and unforgettable music will continue to resonate, inspiring future generations of musicians and music lovers. Thank you all for your subscriptions and comments. I appreciate each one of you and look forward to continuing our musical journey together.